Hare Krishna, can everybody hear me? Yes,
Yes,
no?
yes, Prabhu.
Yes, please.
Just not very good. Okay, we'll go ahead and start now. Gauragraganya gana go to Golaruharam Gauranga Guditama Gopyada Kolpa Briksham Gopala Gada Ratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshika Varam Satatam Namami Uttama Adama Kichuna Bachila Jachia Dile Kakola Kahe Premananda Emona Gauranga Hridoya Dariya Bola Bhaja Gauranga Kaha Gauranga Laha Gaurangera Namure Jai Jana Gauranga Bhaje Sehayamara Prana Re Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Yashaiva Padambuja Bhakti Labhya. Prema-bhakti-candrika Parama-pumarta Tasmai Jagan-mangala-mangalaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Madhgavirapi Gopalan Sri Kriyat Kripaya Jari Tadaiva Sambhaya Pitva Rishayustat Priya Janaha Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Sasanatana Rupaka Gopala Raghunathapta Brajabala Bapahimam Shakalpadarubhischa Kripa Sindhu Bhyaeva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Brinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, nice to see everybody here today. Shri Krishna Namamrita Varshi Bhakta Chandra Prabhad Vastatamo Baraya Gauranga Deva Anucharaya Namo Namah Srila Narottamaya. Again and again I offer my obeisances under Srila Narottam Das Thakur. He is indeed a true follower of Lord Gauranga Dev. The nectarian shower of the holy name radiating from the moon of his mouth destroys the darkness. Okay, quick question. You seeing me or you seeing that verse? Myself?
You.
I'm still struggling with this monitoring things. So in our previous verses, we've been hearing about Braj Parakya Tattva, the truth about Parakya Bhav and Braj. And the previous verse was text number 69. I'm going to go ahead and put that on the board and look back. Braja Puri Bani Tara Charana Ashraya Sar Kurumana Ekanta Kuriya Anya Bola Ganda Gola Nasunuho Uttarola Rako Prema Hridaya Bhariya. O mind, take one pointed shelter of the lotus feet of the Braj Gopis. Don't listen to any other topic. This is simply confusing noise. And keep the swelling ecstasy of your love hidden within your heart. So in our last session, we spoke mostly something about why we should take focused shelter of the Braj gopis, and how other things are noise. And we didn't speak so much about hide your bhakti. That's something which will come up more later on in Prema-bhakti-candrika. So let's go on to today's verse. This is text number 70 in the Bengali, or depending on how you're counting things, chapter 6 of section 6, text 11. Papa punya moya deha shakali anitya ehi dana jana sabha micha danda marile jahi bekota na pao tahate byata tabu niti koro karjamanda. O my mind, you should know this for certain, that the dualities of sin and piety are all temporary. Wealth and followers are all false. You do not know where you will go after death. You do not feel pain about this, and still you continue with your sinful activities. So in the previous verse, Narottam gave us the essence of everything, and we should take shelter of the gopis. Now he's speaking something a little more external. How should we behave? What should we think if we're taking shelter of the gopis? And he's speaking about something which is very difficult for materialistic persons to understand. Whew, it's such a topic, it makes me nervous. Even to this day, most people consider religion to be piety. And their idea of religion is that they behave in a moral way. And what is it? Morality defined as generally what is defined, the definition comes from society, that you don't cheat, you don't steal from other people, you're nice to other people, people like you very much. And that's supposed to be piety. Now, this is a very, very dangerous thing we see even for devotees. That, and therefore Narottam Das Thakur here is stressing this thing, that, okay, you want to focus on the gopis, but you should understand that all this papa punya stuff, this is shakali anityahi. This is just, it's all temporary. Dana jana shaba micha danda. And having followers, having money, it's all micha. It's all just a micha danda, a false conception. So after death, Maria Jaiba Kota, where are you going to go? You don't even know. But still, you're just absorbed because people want to feel good about themselves. And so all over the world, if you ask people about religion, you ask them, what is a Jew? What is a Hindu? What is a Hare Krishna? What is a Muslim? They generally give very shallow external answers. Usually the most of them will speak something about the dress and what they do, what vows they perform. During Ramadan, they only eat once a day. Certain Hindus only eat vegetarian food. They only eat offered food, and that's their definition. But Srila Prabhupada, on one occasion, famous story, when some devotees came to him in London, and they said, Srila Prabhupada, the Royal Vegetarian Society, the London Vegetarian Society, would like you to come and speak. And Prabhupada asked, and he said, what do they want me to speak about? What do they want to hear about? And the devotee said, well, I think they want to hear about vegetarianism. Just give me 1 second. Grab my cheddar. And when Srila Prabhupada heard that, Prabhupada said, what is the value of that? The rabbits are also vegetarian. Monkeys are also vegetarian, and monkeys are great sadhus. They don't wear any clothes or anything. So mostly what goes by the name of Dharma in this world is something mundane. And we can see, to the degree someone's taking shelter of sadhu, how they'll define what is Dharma. Many people, they come to the society with a preconception what is Dharma. Dharma means, especially for people who've grown up in India, Dharma means vanashram. And if you're not practicing that, then you're not a dharmic person. But the word dharma, Prabhupada many times, he says, comes from the beach dhatu drir. Drir means that intrinsic quality. And sometimes Prabhupada would comment that the dharma of fire is to be hot. The dharma of water is to be wet. So real dharma means to understand what is right for me, what is my proper constitutional position. And we don't have the ability to do that. Therefore, we offer prayer to Gurudev, Agyana Timaranda Shagyananjana Shalakaya, that I'm blind. I don't know what is right and what is wrong. And Srila Sanatana Goswami, therefore, when he came to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said, Murka Tumi, I'm just a fool. I don't know anything. Excuse me, I'm quoting it wrong. That's what they told Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's guru, told him, Murka Tumi, you're a fool. But Sanatana Goswami says, I don't even know who I am. So what really is dharma? What is really sin? We should understand that thing very carefully. And Srila Prabhupada, he stressed that we have four regulated principles. Now, for many devotees, they latch onto that, and then for them, this is like the most important thing. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati at Radhakund, in a lecture which I probably quote more often than I need to, he said that our goal is not anartha-nivritti, our goal is artha-pravritti. If all that we're after is just to become free from material desires, then we may become nirvisesa shunyavad. We may become impersonalists. And so in the first verse of Upadeshamrita, Vacha Vegam Manasakroda Vegam, Bhaktivinoda Thakur comments in that verse, which the verse describes how one should control the different senses. Bhaktivinoda describes in his commentaries that this verse is not speaking about bhakti. It's just speaking about something which is a doorway to bhakti. Now, Srila Prabhupada spoke about four regulated principles, and those four regulated principles are important, especially because we make some vow to Guru that we're going to follow those principles. But what is the necessity of those principles? If we consider the matter, it's a little unpalatable, but Jatayu was a vulture, and he's a great devotee of Lord Ramachandra. It's not even possible. He was not a vegetarian. Garuda is not a vegetarian, but they're great personalities. But if they came and filled out a form to enter into the temple and come stay in the temple, and the temple asks, are you vegetarian? How long? And they said, no, I like fish and turtles and stuff like that. Then they probably wouldn't let them stay. So what is the benefit of those four regulated principles? It helps us to become human beings. But sometimes devotees, they're looking for people who are very much attracted to those four regulated principles, or perhaps even worse, they're stressing those four regulated principles. I remember being at the disappearance festival of Srila Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Maharaj. Radhanath Maharaj took me some years ago here in Puri. I've been many times to that program. And somehow I was in like a small room with all the swamis and senior devotees. And there was one very senior sannyasi, disciple of Prabhupada, he's no longer in ISKCON, and who was a guru, had many disciples and a big mission, many followers. And he was stressing how important it is that we preach against abortion. And I remember, what's his name? The new Mahant, now the new Acharya after Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Maharaj's name doesn't come to my mind. He was shocked when he heard that. He said, no, we don't care about that. We want to speak about bhakti. And some years later, I came across a letter from our Srila Prabhupada where he said the same exact thing. He said, we don't care about abortion. We are neither pro-abortion nor anti-abortion. But that's a really heavy one. Vegetarianism is another thing, but this is a really, really heavy one. Yeah, Vishnu Maharaj, thank you, Krishna Kun. So what really is Dharma? Let's look in Prabhupada, this collection of lectures that he made into a book called Journey of Self-Discovery. Prabhupada said, what is real Dharma, real religious life? The simple definition of Dharma, very important, is Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. Real religious life is that which is enunciated directly by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For instance, what do you mean by civil law? Civil law means the word given by the state. You cannot make civil law at home. It's not possible. Whatever the government gives you, you should act like this. That is law. Similarly, Dharma, religious life, means a direction given by God. That is Dharma. Simple definition. If you create some Dharma, or I create some Dharma, or another man creates another Dharma, these are not Dharma. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada stressed so many times, he said that I'm not inventing anything, I'm just repeating Shastra, I'm just repeating from our previous acharyas. And therefore, within our Vaishnava Sangha, you'll find, not just within ISKCON, but all different Vaishnava Sanghas, there's always this concern about how strictly someone is following the previous acharyas. And they gave this example of Vishnu Maharaj chastising this other senior devotee. He's actually a senior to him in terms of age anyway. And Vishnu Maharaj was still chastising him. No, you can't speak like this. I was so pleased with Vishnu Maharaj that he was speaking like this. To find someone who's speaking about Sudha Bhakti. I was listening to a lecture from my Guru Maharaj recently where he was speaking about Dharma and what is Dharma. And he said that if you ask most people what is Dharma, they'll speak about something which is Deha Dharma, something in connection with the body. And maybe you might, out of practically 1 million persons, you might find 1 or 2 people who speak something about Krishna Bhakti. But out of millions of those people, they're all practicing Karma Mishra Bhakti or Gyan Mishra Bhakti. You'll find it very, very rare to find even one person who's practicing Sudha Bhakti. Now, we may not be on that platform. Certainly, I'm not. I was reading a beautiful exchange today from another one of our heroes, Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj, another of our Prabhupada's godbrothers, who somehow was very affectionate to me. And they asked someone, some senior devotee, how long have you been chanting the pure name? And he said, oh, since I started, I've been chanting the pure name. And later they asked Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj the same thing. He's been chanting the holy name for like 75 years. And he looked very sad. He said, I'm still not chanting the pure name. This is a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava is not someone who beats on his own drum. A Vaishnava is someone who's taking shelter of Guru and Shastra through Guru. So Prabhupada quoted this verse as being the essence of Dharma. Let's look at this verse. This is in the 6th canto of the Bhagavatam. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam navaivida rishya napi devaha. This is spoken by Yamaraj to the Yamadutas, who became confused when they went to take away Jamil. And then the Vishnu Dutas showed up and told them, no, you can't have him. So they went to their boss, Yamaraj, and they said, well, what gives? We thought you were the supreme person. And so then he began to explain to them what real Dharma is. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. That Dharma is something which is directly given by Bhagavat. The Bhagavat means the Lord, or as Srila Prabhupada comments in his purport, in the last sentence of the purport, he said, this transcendental religious principle must be understood from the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly or from his special representative, as stated in the next verses. And what are the next verses? Very famous, Swayambhu Narada Shambhu Kumara Kapiloma, where he speaks about 13, sometimes we say 11 Mahajans, but it's 13, or sometimes we say 12, but it's 13 counting Yamaraj himself, who's also speaking this thing, that religious principles are given by these personalities. This is real Dharma. And we should know that, and therefore we should take shelter of a person. But in a society where we don't have faith in persons, in a society where maybe we give some lip service to it, and we make initiation as something, some ecclesiastical institutional function. How long have you been a devotee? Oh, you should take initiation. We have, some system. This is for people who chant 4 rounds. This is for people who chant 8. This is for people who chant 16, and you have a different title. That's good. that encourages people. I'm not against that. And I'm not, in a sense, I'm not against that institutional kind of initiation either. However, Jiva Goswami in Bhakti Sundarbha says that we should not take initiation for that reason. So it becomes confusing when we speak about Dharma for people that they can't understand statements like this from Narottam Das Thakur. We're saying, give up your piety, give up your pop. But it's the same thing that Krishna is saying in the 18th chapter of the Gita, 1866, Sarva Dharmam Paritiga Mamekam Sharanam Braja, Aham Tvam Sarva Papibhyo Moksha Yashami Masuchai. He says, give up all Dharma, and I'll protect you from sin. He doesn't say give up sin. He doesn't say Sarva Papa Paritiga, he says Sarva Dharmam Paritiga. So for persons who are attached to mundane religiosity, and again, that attachment comes when we don't have faith in sadhu, we don't really have faith in shastra, we have more faith in our ability to distinguish between right and wrong. So Srila Prabhupada in his purport to that verse, Sarvadharma Paritiga, let's look at a little bit from his purport. This is just a quick excerpt. Prabhupada says that he's summarizing the Gita. Krishna says that Arjuna should give up all these other processes, and he summarizes his verse, and then he should simply surrender to Krishna. And that surrender will save him from all kinds of sinful activities. So in the 7th chapter of the Gita, Prabhupada says, it may be confusing because there it was said that only someone who's free from sin can take to worship of Krishna. So then someone may think that unless you're free from sinful reactions, you can't take to the surrendering process. Similarly, I've heard sometimes devotees say that well, chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, that's a very high thing, and there's 10 offenses to be considered, and therefore better that you chant the names of Gaura and Nitai, because there's no offenses in their consideration. But if you try to worship Gaura and Nitai without chanting Hare Krishna, how are you going to please them? In the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Jadiyama prati sneha taki sabakar, tabi Krishna vyatirikta naga evayar. He said, don't chant my name. Don't chant any other name other than Krishna. Well, we do chant the name of Gauranga Mahaprabhu, and many acharyas do so, and it's a very sweet thing, and it's very helpful in our bhajan. But we want a complete picture. And to worship Gaura Nitai properly, to worship Gurudev properly, means that we should worship Krishna. Where some Vaishnavas say that, well, that's a very high thing, and therefore we should do this lesser thing. But you're not going to please that Vaishnava. You're not going to please Gaura Nityananda if you don't chant the holy names. So Prabhupada says there's no need of strenuous effort to free oneself from sinful reactions. Rupa Goswami in his Pajavali, he says, Kasaya nacha bojanadini amanoba brani vasati. He says that some people, kasayan means saffron cloth. They put on saffron cloth. And some people that they give up eating sweets. And some people, they just recite Shastra. And some people, they just won't look at women. And some people, Vani Vasatu, they go to the forest and they just live there. But Rupa Goswami in this verse, he says that it doesn't weaken Cupid at all. So Prabhupada says there's no need of strenuous effort to free oneself from sinful reactions. If you look at the history of Gaudiya Vaishnavism in the West, not just ISKCON, but Gaudiya Vaishnavism in the West, there's so many people who don't really understand the culture. And when they initially come to it, they think, oh, it means the dress, it means the external rituals, it means this external thing or that external thing. And they're focused on that, and they're very focused, they're very concerned about their lusty desires. Prabhupada says simply one should unhesitatingly, without any hesitation, this is the essence of this verse, Sarva Dharmam Paritiga, without hesitation, accept Krishna as the supreme savior of all living entities, and with faith and love, one should surrender unto him. So this is the essence of this movement. But persons who are have some mundane attachment, they don't appreciate, they don't understand. Sometimes even they criticize devotees. And I see this quite often. You'll see this quite often on Facebook. People, they equate Vaishnavism or saintliness with their association, or with have they been involved with any ISKCON education with children or something? And if they have, obviously they're very bad. Or some persons, they'll say, well, are you on the side of Ukraine? Are you on the side of Russia? Or are you on the side of the liberals or the conservatives? And if you're not, then you're not really a saintly person. And all of those things are just a waste of time. And therefore, as we like to quote from Narottam Das Thakur later in Prema-bhakti-candrika, he says that karmi gyani micha bhakta nahoibe toya anurakta. Don't be attached to the karmis, the gyanis, and the false devotees. Don't get all absorbed in politics and being with this side and that side. And you may say, but this politician, he's against abortion. This politician is pro-vegetarianism. This politician is pro-Hare Krishna people. Just focus on your bhajan. And if Guru and Krishna want you to be absorbed in that thing, then maybe you will. But there's no lack of people who assign it to themselves. They're self-appointed reformers. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, therefore, has given us essential teachings in his Manasiksha. And in the second of one of his verses, he says a similar thing that Narottam Das Thakur is stating in the verse today. Na dharmam shrutigana niruktam kilakuru braje radha krishna prachura paricharyam ihatanu sachi sunum nandishvarapati sutatve guruvaram Mukunda Preshtatve Smara Paramajashram Nanumana. He said, my dear mind, don't get absorbed in all these things. Nadharmam, nadharmam. Don't be concerned about what is dharma or what is adharma, what is sin, what is piety. Shrutigana niruktam kilakuru. These things which are described in the Vedic literatures, but Prabhu. It says so in Manasanhita. It says so in this literature and that literature. But rather, he says, Braje Radha Krishna Prachura Paricharyam Ihatanu. Instead, you should render service to Radha and Krishna. And you should do that under the guidance of the son of Mother Sachi, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And you should remember that son of Mother Sachi is actually Krishna. And Mukunda Prestatvi Smara Paramajashram Nanumana. Again, he's speaking, this is real Dharma. Take shelter of Sadhu Guru and follow what Sadhu Guru is giving. It's a difficult thing. It's a difficult thing, to speak really frankly, in our ISKCON society, where many times we can't stress persons, sometimes they say, because we've had problems, Prabhu, with the persons. And therefore we stress Srila Prabhupada because he's safe and because he's our founder Acharya. But you can't have, as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said in one lecture, he said that it's not possible to have the holy name without sadhu. The two go together. You can't have the holy name without sadhu, what to speak of anything else. So this is Dharma. And then what is sin? My Guru Maharaj would quote these verses from Chaitanya Charitamrita as a general definition. Kama, prema, dharmakara, vibhuna lakshana laha ar, hema jaichi swarupe bilakshana. That when we speak about lust and love, kama and prema, they have different characteristics. They're very, very different. Just as loha and hema, iron and gold, is very, very different. And in apmindriya pritivansha tari boli kam. When you're acting for your pritivansha, for the pleasure of your senses, that's lust. That's a sinful activity. Krishnendriya priti icha dari prema nam. When you're acting to please Krishna, that's love. It's a very, very difficult thing for many persons to understand. Even within common Hinduism, most Hindus, they appreciate Lord Ramachandra because he took a vow, ayācita-vṛtti. He was a very pious person. He didn't, but Krishna is very complicated. Krishna is very, very difficult to understand and appreciate. He married 16,108 wives. Oh my God. And then let's not even talk about Vrindavan, where he's associating with so many different married ladies. Yes, Bonnie, Prabhupada also speaks against abortion. Prabhupada, let me go back to that real quick. Of course, actually, it says in the Brihanaradiya Purana that doing abortion is the most sinful activity there is. But our business is not to promote piety. Sometimes it seems like that. Even for devotees, we hear so much, well, Prabhu, you know, if you just offer obeisances once before the deity, you'll never take birth again. It says this in Shastri, if you hear the conch shell, if you see the artik, if you take prasadam once, you do this or that. And in this way, sometimes we become the International Society for Sukriti Consciousness, or Bhakti-mukhi Sukriti Consciousness. But it's not exactly the same as bhakti. And what to speak of pop, for devotees, definitely we encourage them to give up pop. And for non-devotees, we encourage them to give up pop. And we may have some friends out there who are also against animal slaughter, who are against overforestation, who are against pollution, who have some piety in terms of those things. And we can speak to them that that's a good thing. However, real piety means to focus on Krishna. Now, in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, let's look at a couple verses. This is from the end of the 19th chapter. This is Krishna speaking to Uddhava, and he tells Uddhava, Guna dosha drishi dosha gunas tubaya varjitaha. Guna means good qualities. Dosha means false. Drisha means to see. Dosha gunas tubaya varjitaha. He says that focusing on what's good or bad, material piety or material sin, that's a fault by of itself. That's a dosha. Because gunas tubaya varjitaha. Real piety means to go beyond both of them. And then in the next chapter afterwards, Krishna speaks more about this. And he speaks what is really Dharma. Svesvedi karyanishta saguna parikirtitaha karmanam jati sudanam anena niyama kritaha. That it means to act according to your adhikar, your position. But what is my position? And there's so many people who speculate about that. So many people say, my position is to be a reformer. My position is to point out the fault in everybody. And we need reformers. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. But when we have a mob of crazy people foaming at the mouth who all want to appoint themselves as the fault finder of others and the purifier of others, the judge of others, running around, you just have chaos in society. Better to be a simple street sweeper, Srila Prabhupada comments in one verse in the Gita, than to be a false renunciate. To imitate is not our position. So Krishna's saying here that this is Dharma. Sri Sri Adhikarya Nishta. You should be nishta. You should be fixed in what's appropriate for you. And then a few verses later in the same chapter, Krishna tells Uddhava that devotees, these things don't apply to devotees. Now, then the big $64,000 question comes, are we devotees? We'll come to that. Na mayankan ikanta bhaktanam guna dosha bhava gunaha sadhunam samachittanam bude param upeyusam. Material piety and sin, which arise from the good and evil of this world, cannot exist within my unalloyed devotees who, being free from material hankering, maintain steady spiritual consciousness in all circumstances. Indeed, such devotees have achieved me, the Supreme Lord, whom beyond anything that can be conceived by material intelligence. So now we're speaking especially about devotees like Jatayu. Jatayu is on our altar. Maybe I was thinking today I should have some photograph of Jatayu. We have Jatayu on the left of our altar, and we have Nandi, Krishna's bull, on the right side. Some little masks that are made here in Orissa traditional art. So these personalities, you can't judge them in this way. And for devotees, for ourselves, does it mean, as Srila Prabhupada once, he told the devotees in Vrindavan, somebody said, but Prabhupada, we just chant Hare Krishna, and we're devotees, we don't follow these things. And Prabhupada said, but the problem is you're not devotees. And Prabhupada said, therefore we have to have Varnashram. And therefore, there's a famous verse in the Padma Purana, which is quoted quite often by acharyas in the Sundarbhas, Jiva Goswami gives, and also in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, in a number of places. Smartavya Satatam Vishnu Vismartavya Najati Chit Sarve Viri Nisedha Shur Eta Yoriva Kinkara. Very important verse that we should understand. Smartavya Satatam Vishnu. To always remember Krishna, Vishnu, that's real Dharma. And forgetting him is sin. This is the essence of all the different rules and regulations. And Jiva Goswami, after quoting this verse in his Bhakti Sundarbha, he gives quite a strong comment on it. This is Anucheda 148. Let's look at it. He says, Sarva Bidi Niseda Shur. This meaning all different rules and things you should follow and prohibitions. Itya Dina Chaparama Nityadvari Pratipadanat. They're all servants remembering the Lord and never forgetting him. This is the highest Nitya karma, the highest dharmic rule, to always remember the Lord and never forget him. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't have Varnashram Dharma. It doesn't mean that devotees should not be vegetarian. It doesn't mean that abortion is okay. It doesn't mean any of those things. But the essence of everything is to remember Krishna and chant the holy name constantly. This is a difference between sin and dharma. Let's look at some other verses which are quoted by Jiva Goswami. This one's from Padma Purana. Haro prasani papani kutra tishtanti dehinam jamantara arjitai papar gata yam imam gatim. That if Krishna pleases someone, then papani kutra, where tishtanti dehinam, where is that pap going to stay in his body? And even though someone jamantara arjita papar, they've been doing pap from so many births, still they get liberation very easily if we please the Lord. The pleasing Krishna is the essence of everything. Smartavya satatam Vishnu Vismartavya Najatikshit. There's a number of verses Jiva Goswami gives about this, but I'd like to go to one my grandmas used to quote sometimes, which is kind of a real mind blower. This is also from Padma Purana. It's quoted in both Hadi Bhakti Vilas and in Bhakti Sundarbha. It's also quoted by Bhakti Vinod and Jaiva Dharma. Manimitam kritam papam api dharmaya kalpiti. Now, someone does some pap, but they do it for me. They do some sin, but they're doing it for me. That pap becomes dharma. Api dharmaya kalpite. Mamanadritya, but if they neglect me, then the so-called dharma pi papam shanma prabhavataha. Then the so-called dharma becomes pap. This is a very dangerous verse, especially when we try to institutionalize bhakti and just try to mass produce it for many, many people. Then you have devotees doing things. I know one woman, devotee, I guess, she's a friend of ours years ago, who was doing books, or doing collection during Christmas time in a shopping mall. And she went into a bar, and she started flirting with some guy, and he pulled his wallet out, and she grabbed his wallet and ran. And then later she said, well, I'm a devotee, so this was okay. No, it's not okay, and you're not a devotee. Just as Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj is saying, I've been chanting Hare Krishna for 75 years. but still I'm not chanting Sudanam. That should be the attitude of a devotee. On the other hand, if someone is an exalted personality, they may be inspired in the heart to do something wrong, but Krishna will take care. An example is given of Jayananda Prabhu, who was so dedicated to Srila Prabhupada. Once someone asked him, Vatsal Prabhu, a friend of mine, asked him, he said, Jayananda, how did you become so advanced? And Jayananda was quiet for me. He said, I don't know. He said, I'm too busy working to think about that. And Jayananda was someone who didn't know much Shastra, couldn't pronounce things properly, was not a Sanskrit pundit, but he loved Srila Prabhupada. And he just gave everything to Srila Prabhupada. On one occasion, his clothes had become very old and worn out. And so he wanted to get some new jeans. They were becoming a little racy. You shouldn't wear them in public. But he couldn't tolerate spending Srila Prabhupada's money that way. So he went into a shop, looked both ways, and pulled on a pair of pants over his old pants. And he started walking out, and the security caught him. And they arrested him and put him in jail, and he went to court. When he went to court, Jayananda Prabhu, with so much sincerity, he told him, he said, sir, I'm a monk, and I can't tolerate spending God's money like this. And he was so sincere and such an empowered personality that the judge became touched by him and just threw the case out of court. So a great personality is someone that may happen with. We can't imitate that. And so over the years, so many devotees have tried to do that. Better that we were simple. I know there's my godbrother, Indranuj Prabhu, his wife, whose name I forget. She's been doing book distribution for like, my gosh, I don't know, 45 years or something. And if you take accumulated scores over the last 45 years, she's one of the top 10 book distributors in the world. And she's just always just been very simple and told people, this is a book that speaks about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is a book that speaks about the spiritual world, that speaks about the meaning of life, and just a very direct, very simple way. And she's always been able to touch people's hearts in that way. So it's not necessary that we do tricks or that we tell lies or anything. Jiva Goswami, when he quotes this verse, understanding that some people may freak out, manimitam kritam papam api dharmaya kalpate, that doing some sinful activity for me, Krishna says, if he does it for me, that becomes dharma. And if someone neglects me, then their so-called dharma becomes pap. So Jiva Goswami, understanding what the pundits are going to say, understanding what the Sukriti Manjanas, what the pious people are going to say, he tells a story about Tirumangai Alwar. And this is actually in his commentary on the Bhagavatam, his Krama Sandarbha. There was one great devotee named Tirumangai, lived in South India. He's famous as one of the Alwars. And from his childhood, he was going to different holy places to serve the Lord. And after many years, he met some 4 different persons who had mystic cities, and they became disciples of Tirumangai. The first was called Tarka Chirum. Tarka means argument or debate. Defeat anyone in debate. Nobody could defeat him. The second one was Dwara Umochika. Dwara means a door or lock. So he could open Umochika. Mocha means liberation. He could liberate any door, any lock. The third one was named Chaya Graha. Chaya means shadow. Graha means to touch, or grab. So Chaya Graha, that person, he had this mystic city. Whoever he touched their shadow, they wouldn't be able to move. And then there was Jalaparichar. Jalaparichar was someone who could walk on water. So they started traveling with their Guru Maharaj. Tirumangai went to South India, and they came across the ancient temple of Lord Ranganath. And they saw that the temple was in a terrible state of disrepair. It was falling apart. When they tell the story in South India, they say that the courtyard was full of leather shoes. It was surrounded by bushes, and there were jackals and tigers in the area. And the servants were very afraid to go there. They would go maybe once a day, just in the middle of the day, and then they'd run away. So when Tirumangai saw this, he felt great distress, and he also became very angry. He was thinking, Jiva Goswami says that so many materialistic people, they're living in Beverly Hills, they're living in very opulent places, and they're surrounded by beautiful women, engaged in all kinds of lusty things, while the Lord of the universe, Lord Ranganath, the King of all kings, is the life and soul of everyone. He's living in this broken temple. And he's thinking the demons, they're taking the money of the Lord. But Tirumangai was just a poor Hare Krishna devotee. He didn't have any money or anything. He didn't know what to do. So Jiva Goswami explains, in the history in South India, that he and his 4 disciples then, they began to visit different rich people. But these rich people, he would go to them and beg alms, please, this temple really needs to be rebuilt. But those rich people, they would just tell him, hey, get a job. What are you doing here? What does a sadhu need for money? You're a simple person. But he wouldn't give up. And so finally, he decided that they should steal from them. And Tirumangai, he became the leader of a gang of thieves. And they had a whole system. The first disciple, Tarkachudamani, who nobody could defeat him in debate, he would start arguing with them. And they would get caught up in this argument, while his second disciple, who could open any door, would go there and he'd open the door to their treasury where they kept their money and things. And then Chayagraha, if there's any guards or anybody there, he would step on their shadows. They couldn't move then. And then he had a fourth disciple. Sometimes there were palaces and places that surrounded by different deep moats of water, and he would be able to enter them because he could walk on water. And so in this way, they stole so much money. And they also engaged many dacoits, many gundas. And those gundas were working for Tirumangai. To get them to work, he promised them that we're going to rip off all these wealthy people. We're going to give you the money and things. And so one day, the thieves, not his disciples, but the thieves, they came to him and they said, look, Maharaj, where's our money? And Tirumangai said, no problem. It's there on an island in the middle of the Kaveri River. And here's a nice boat. You get on the boat and you go across the Kaveri and you get on the island, and all the treasure is there. Great. They were all really happy. They all got on the boat. It was a plan from Tirumangai. The boat had a leak in it, and the boat sank in the middle of the Kaveri River, and all the thieves drowned and died. So this is a pious person. Tirumangai Alwar, who has a gang of thieves and mass murders so many of these thieves, but he's a pious person because he's acting according to the desire of the Lord. And therefore, this verse is there in the Padma Purana, manimitam kritam papam api dharmaya kalpate, that real dharma means to please Krishna. Whereas if someone is doing something which seems like dharma, but they're neglecting Krishna, that becomes pop. So Tirumangai was an exalted Mahabhagavat Vaishnav, and the Lord was inspiring him in the heart. And Tirumangai took all that money. He lived a very, very simple life. He was just cooking once a day and offering it to the Lord and eating the prasadam from that. And he never had a house or anything, but he built this beautiful, beautiful temple for Lord Ranganath with that money. And those thieves, those gundas that he drowned in the Kaveri River, they all got liberation because they were engaged in serving the Lord's devotee. There's a verse, I was just reading it today. Let's see if I can find this. Here it is. It's a nice verse from Chanika Niti Darpana 4:2. Let's put this on the board. It's a beautiful verse. I really like this one. Chanika Pandit's Niti Darpana is a collection of verses from different shastras. He says, Sadhubhyaste nivartante putra mitrani bandavaha yechatai sahagantaras tad dharma sukitam kulam. That although your friends, putra mitrani bandavaha, your friends, relatives, when you become a Hare Krishna devotee, everybody runs away from you. But paradoxically, those people who follow that devotee, they give benefit to their family. So your family leaves you when you become a Hare Krishna devotee. But paradoxically, the persons who follow that devotee, whose families left him, they get benefit, they get benefit for their families. So this is the nature of bhakti. It's a very, very important principle to understand the difference between what is piety and what is what's not piety. What's piety in what's real dharma. So I want to go on to another topic. This verse. Hi, Krishna Kun. Did you have something?
No, the sound dropped in the other room, so I need to come.
The sound dropped out. Let me just see.
I think it's only my internet.
Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah.
Prabhu.
Okay. All right. Sorry, Krishna. It's nothing personal. This is sound went out. She's in the next room doing something, so the sound went out for her. So Narottam Das Thakur in this verse, he's saying that we should give up attachment for dharma and for pop. Don't worry about what other people are doing. We see so many mundane religionists, whether they be Christians or whether they be Muslims, where their primary consideration is to not do sin. And when they go to preach, their message to other people is, you're a sinner. You should give up that sin. And so the unspoken idea is that by giving up that sin, that's real dharma. That's a really spiritual activity. But that's not the fact of things. So Narottam Das Thakur gives us this verse, Papa punya moya deha shakali anitya ehi, that don't worry about it. These things, they're all temporary. This pop and punya, one day someone's a poppy. There's a beautiful saying that every saint has a past and every sinner has a future. So you may be a saint, but we can find something bad about you. You did some bad thing in the past. And you may be a sinner, but that sinner has some future. And then Narottam, he goes on to say that Dana Jana Sabha Micha Danda. Don't try to collect a lot of wealth or a lot of followers. Hare Krishna. This is such a topic. I see, even directly, Bhakti Rupa Prabhu told me some years ago, one of his godbrothers, senior devotee, Prabhupada disciple, came to him and said, I'm thinking that I should take sannyas. And Bhakti Rupa kind of looked at him because he wasn't a preacher. He's a very simple, sweet devotee, but he wasn't a preacher. And Bhakti Rupa said, well, what is a necessity? He said, well, I'm getting older. And how am I going to make a living? But if I'm a sannyasi, then people will give me something to eat. They'll take care of me. I'll have some position and some respect and things. And some persons do like that. But Chaitanya Charitamrita teaches us, Mahaprabhu says that a Vaishnava is one who doesn't ask anyone for anything. This is called ayācita-vṛtti. Mata Vaishnava kori kichu namagiba. Ayācita-vṛtti kimba shaka phala kaiva. A Vaishnava is someone who doesn't ask anything from anyone else. And if someone gives him something without being asked, then he should accept it. They're offering this thing. They're not offering it to me. They're offering it to my Gurudev. They're offering to the Lord. If someone comes and wants to praise us, then we should say, you should praise more. Oh, it was a nice lecture. No, you should praise more, because it's not due to me, it's due to my Gurudev. That should be the proper attitude of a Vaishnava. They don't keep anything for themselves. And they should just be simple. Sadanama loibe yata labiti santoshe to achara kori bhakti dharma posh. This is really bhakti dharma. Real bhakti dharma means that we just chant the holy name constantly. Sadanama loibe. Take shelter of the holy name. The holy name will take care of everything. And whatever you collect, that's good. Don't make a business out of giving classes. It's a horrible thing. Don't make a business out of being a sadhu, being a sannyasi, and trying to collect money and things. It's a horrible thing. My grandma once in 1994 was getting ready to go to America, and he didn't know the situation there very well. I was a temple president there before. I knew most of the leaders. So I was engaged to help figure out where he was going to go. So I asked him, Guru Maharaj, where do you want to go? And he said, I'll go wherever they want me. And I said, well, Guru Maharaj, if I ask, everybody's going to want a Prabhupada disciple, sannyasi, to come. And he said that whoever pays my ticket. But he never had us go and do big collection to collect a fund for his tickets or anything. He just preached. And if people wanted him, then he would go. And if people didn't want him, then he wouldn't go. Once I was in his room when one of my godbrothers, Janeshwar Prabhu, came in, and Janeshwar gave him a donation. It wasn't a huge amount. It was like 2,000 or 3,000 rupees, which is nothing. And that's like, I don't know, maybe $30 US or something. And he gave that to Guru Maharaj in the desk, and Guru Maharaj didn't take it. And looked at it and looked at Janeshwar, and he said, oh, he said, you're a householder. He said, you need money. And Janeshwar said, no, Guru Maharaj, I want to give this to you. And Guru Maharaj said, are you sure? You don't mind? It doesn't hurt? No, Guru Maharaj, you do. That touched my heart so much. A Vaishnava is someone who doesn't want to be a burden on other persons. And they just depend upon Krishna. Whatever Krishna sends, and they'll accept that. If Krishna gives it to them, then they accept. Once Guru Maharaj called for me and asked me, because he saw when I was traveling with him, I had a 1-volume edition of Chaitanya Charitamrita, and he was making some notes or writing something, and he wanted to look up some things. So he asked me for that book. So very ecstatically, I ran to the ashram, I got the book and brought it back to him, and he used it, and I went back to the room, and later someone called for me, and I came back, and Guru Maharaj said, so here's your book back. I said, Guru Maharaj, you should keep that. That's a donation for you. And Guru Maharaj said, oh, okay. So he accepted the book. And then an hour or so later, again, someone came and said, Guru Maharaj wants to see you. I went back, and Guru Maharaj said, here's your book back. And I said, no, Guru Maharaj, really, that's for you. And then Guru Maharaj pointed in the front of the book where I put a stamp, care of Madhavananda Das, please return. And he said, I said, no, Guru Maharaj, don't pay attention to that. That's for you. Guru Maharaj said, no. He was so simple. He never wanted to exploit anyone. It hurts my heart so much when someone acts as a Vaishnava, but they're doing it as a business, to promote, to give classes, to make some money, to take care of their family. Just depend upon Krishna. Krishna will do everything. And if Krishna doesn't send you money for tickets or something, then don't go anywhere. Just stay where you are. Everything is just fine. You don't need all of that. Our purpose is just to please Krishna. Our purpose is if someone wants to hear from us, then we go and we speak to them. And if they don't want to hear from us, that's probably as simple as they have good intelligence. Why would they want to hear from me? Don't make a business. One of out of speaking Hari Katha, out of doing Kirtan, one of the offenses to the holy Dham, Bhaktivinoda Thakur speaks about, and no, I've not found this in Shastra anywhere, but it's a list that he gives in some places in Sajjana Toshini. One of the offenses of the holy Dham is to go there to make money speaking on the Bhagavatam, or speaking Krishna Katha, or doing Kirtan. That's an offense to the Dham. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't take donations. It doesn't mean that it's wrong, and we shouldn't criticize some sadhu who's doing like that. They're depending on Krishna, but let them, they should depend on Krishna and not think, oh, I like these devotees because they give lots of money. I don't like these devotees because they don't give. Actually, honestly, the first time we went to London, we went there and it was nice. A lot of devotees, somehow they appreciated our kathas. It was embarrassing sometimes, even what some of them were saying, and they were very enthusiastic about it. But we didn't go there again for, I don't know, like 10 years or something. And why did we not go there? Nobody said anything negative. There was nothing but the reason I didn't go there again is because I could just feel, I could sense the leader's concern about me and watching me. How much money is he taking? Is he here to collect money or get this thing or that thing? Because there's a lot of wealthy persons there. And to be fair, their temple, they're doing a lot of good things with the donations they collect. They have a huge project there and things. They need money. It's an important project. But I didn't make me feel comfortable. And so we kept going to places like Uzbekistan. And Uzbekistan, they don't have any money there. But it's so wonderful to go there and be with the devotees. They cry. They're so very, very happy. And so it doesn't mean that we shouldn't give money to devotees. It doesn't mean that we should tell them, look, Maharaj, look, Prabhu, you should just be simple and don't accept anything. We want to give them money and things. But if you're doing business out of preaching, out of making disciples, out of being a sadhu, it's a very, very terrible thing. That was the business, the activity of Ramachandra Puri. Madhavendra Puri had two disciples, Ishvara Puri and Ramachandra Puri, who were very, very different. And Vrindavan Das Thakur, Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami describes the nature of Ramachandra Puri, Animantrana Bhiksha Kori Nahika Nirnaya Anyara Bhikshara Sthitara Loyina Nishchai. This is the nature of Ramachandra Puri, that he was a sadhu. And his qualification of being a sadhu is that he would go, nobody knew where he was going to take his meal, because he was just going and knocking on people's doors and telling them, this is your lucky day. Here I am. You can feed me. And I want something opulent, and making a business out of being a sadhu. So Narottam Das Thakur is telling us, don't do this. If we break this principle, it'll be bad for us, and it'll be bad for our mission. Therefore, we see Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He saw that Gaudiya Vaishnavism had been taken over by so many people who were making a business out of it. And therefore, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he came and very heavily, he rejected this mood of people taking money for giving initiation, taking money for giving classes, for doing kirtans and things. We should be simple. We shouldn't hanker for anything. We should not mix our material desires with our devotional activity and start thinking, oh, I'm a sadhu because I'm chanting Hare Krishna. And because I'm chanting Hare Krishna, whatever I think, which may be under the influence of the modes of nature, is transcendental because I'm a sadhu. And we may have some mundane conception of Dharma and piety, and we start pushing that thing, and we water things down. And Sudha Bhakti goes away, and it becomes an international society for money consciousness. Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur, our favorite madman, has given a beautiful verse. Brata Bhoga Subukta Kahihana. Brata Bhoga Subukta Kahihana Bhavata Napi Samsara Madhye Bijadana Dvara Jai Kati Kati Jagati Kyati Pujatya Labdaha Ajarhare Pi Yadrichika Udugunavan Apyaho Samvritatma Srimad Vrindavane Srin Satatamata Sakke Sarvato Mukta Sangha. He says, my dear brother, Brata, when you go to say something really heavy to someone, you put your arm around them, you say, oh, bye, my dear brother. So he says, my dear brother, Bhoga Subukta Kaiha. What kind of boga enjoyment have you already experienced in this samsara, this world of birth and death? You've had so much vidya, so much knowledge, so much fame and things that you've gotten by charity and education, all these things. He says, my dear friend, don't worry about these things. At this time, now just accept whatever food comes unsought. Look to see the good qualities in others, not their faults. Don't put yourself forward, but remain obscure and unknown and continually wander without any companion in this beautiful forest of Vrindavan. This is what it really means to be a sadhu. And Gaurkishore Babaji, on one occasion, he said that I am all alone in the worship of the Lord. Not that he's all alone. There were so many Vaishnavas coming and hearing from him every day, but who could really share his heart? And he walks alone. I saw that with my Guru Maharaj, although he was surrounded by hundreds of sycophant disciples who just were hanging on his every word and wanted to please him, wanted his affectionate glance. He just left without a side glance, without looking back at all. So we should wander without any companion in this beautiful forest in Vrindavan. But if we do that, obscure and alone, unknown, no one knows who we are, then maybe I'll die in Vrindavan, in some forest, and nobody will even know, and my body will be eaten by dogs and birds. And they won't bury me. There won't be any program where they talk about how good Madhavananda was and how many Bindu magazines he made and how we liked his lectures and what a nice guy he was and how he did this thing and that thing. The hell with all those things. The real essence of things is to please the Lord. Manimitam kritam papam api dharmaya kalpate mamanadita dharmopi papam shamat prabhavata. Therefore, in the Padma Purana, Krishna says that someone who does sin, but they do it for me, that sin becomes dharma. And someone who does pop, but they're not doing it for me, they're neglecting me, that becomes sin. And therefore, Narottam Das Thakur is giving us this verse. We'll go ahead and look at it again. We'll finish for the day. Papa punya moya deha, shakali anitya eha. This pop, this sin and punya, these things, that they're all mixed in. This is something that just comes along with the body. Shakali anitya ehi. You should understand all these things are just temporary. One day you have so much pop, so much sin, and the next day you take bath in the Ganga or something, and a lot of it goes away. And then the next day it comes back again. Don't worry about trying this pop and punya business. Dana jana sabamicha danda. And don't try to collect followers and become famous. Don't try to collect a lot of money in the name of, well, Prabhu, for me to give classes or something, I have to make a poster and promote myself. You don't have to promote yourself. But on the other hand, if someone does promote you or something, or maybe you promote yourself to some extent, it may help, but be careful. Be very, very careful with that thing. If you start thinking that it's all about you, then it's no longer bhakti. We should understand that real dharma means to please Krishna. Marile jaibe kota. You don't know where you're going to go after you die. Tabu niti kore kaja manda. Still, though, you're going on with all your sinful activities. Still, you're going on with your selfish attitude, that it's all about me, that it's all about my Varnashram conception, it's all about my piety conception. And not that Varnashram is wrong, but we want transcendental Varnashram. We don't want this Asura Varnashram, this demoniac Varnashram, which is based on someone's personal desires and things. Our Varnashram Dharma is transcendental because it's something that we follow Guru. And therefore, Krishna says in the 11th canto, I'm reading that verse, that you should follow your adhikar, which is given by Guru. You should follow that thing, and everything will be clear and simple. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there. Siddha Hari Prabhu has some comments. If anybody else has comments too, you can speak up, raise your hand. Siddha Hari Prabhu says, Dear Prabhu, I have another class in a few minutes. I'm leaving early. Thank you for the katha. So wonderful to hear how real pop is forgetting Krishna, and real punya is the ability to remember Krishna. That's our society. And if we start thinking anything different, we start thinking, they have this, what's the phrase? Bonnie would remember, she might know. They have these ministries in America where the idea is that you make a lot of money. It's I can't hear you, Bonnie. Do you remember?
Oh yeah, it's on the tip of my tongue. It's like the televangelist, but they got a name for that, like where you.
Not that all televangelists are bad, just as a category.
No, but there's a specific where you pay in. They preach that you pay in and God will bring you back the money. the money.
I saw that with my own family and things, and I see this sometimes with devotees. We have to be very, very careful because you may give everything to Krishna, and Krishna won't give you anything back material. You may take it all away. You may, it may be the most fortunate thing in the world for you. We can't promise people mundane things. There's a prosperity ministry. That's what they call it, I think. That you give money and you're going to get so much back. We have to be very careful. It's a real common thing in mundane religion. Dorothea, do you want to share something? Don't want your hand to get...
Yeah, to get tired. the online hand. Yes, Prabhu Dandavat, I'm so happy to be able to take part in the kata. So nice, beautiful kata, so important, so essential to know about this, that actual piety is about pleasing Krishna, and impiety is to displease Krishna. And I recall you once, it came to mind, you once speaking about risking something. I don't remember what, but risking some things to travel with your Guru Maharaj. And I felt like what I just remembered that because to like Guru Seva is also also seems to be also very important in to know what pleases Krishna and what not. So would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, Krishna says, a verse we quote oftentimes, that ye me bhakti jana partiname bhakti sate jana, that someone who says is my devotee is not my devotee. Only someone who's a devotee of my devotee, that's my real devotee. And that's how Krishna gives Dharmam tu sakshat Bhagavat pranitam. He does it to the Bhagavat, to the Bhakta Bhagavat. That's how he gives Dharma. So whatever pleases Guru, that's our Dharma. Maybe the story you're telling, I traveled with Guru Maharaj for, I don't know, actually in America, I traveled with him for like a month, and then in Europe for 5-6 weeks or something, 4 to 6 weeks. And I had no problem anywhere. I had my passport, everything was okay. When we went back to India, we flew from Heathrow Airport. I had the whole month I'd been sleeping the most. I slept for 5 hours one day when I was sick. Guru Maharaj made me, but otherwise I was sleeping whatever he was sleeping, which is about 3 hours a night, and sometimes not at all. I can't do that, especially these days. But somehow we did because we were with him. And when we arrived in Delhi, we went through the passport check, and for the first time, they refused to accept my passport. And they said that this is a forgery or something wrong with the passport. And I was trying to talk. We had another flight to go from Delhi to Bhubaneswar, and Guru Maharaj was waiting, and I was trying everything, and they weren't listening to me. Finally, he spoke up, and he told them, and so he said something which really broke my heart. He said, "I'm an old man. I'm a sadhu. He's a young man. If you have a problem with him, you take him. Why are you making me suffer? You should let me go." And here, Guru Maharaj was basically rejecting me. And I was shocked for a moment, and it hurt. But then I came to my senses, and I just repeated basically what he said to them, only a little stronger. I said, "He's an old man. He's a sadhu. Why are you harassing him? So if you have a problem meeting, just keep me." And somehow I repeated what he said like that, and then all of a sudden everything changed. And they said, okay. And they just let me go. So maybe that was the story you're thinking of. I don't know.
Oh, wow, I hear this story for the first time, but it was so amazing to hear. Wow, amazing. Thank you for telling that. Jai. I guess you risk not only in that situation, but many other situations. So, yeah, for your Guru Maharaj.
It's nice to see you, Dorothea. You're going to go anywhere else other than Braj here in India?
I have a visa problem and financial problem, so I trying to solve that and then come back and stay long term. That's my plan.
We're coming to Vrindavan on the 7th. We'll be there from like the 8th to
Oh,
7th or something like that. And then we'll get some classes, and there's a program they asked me to come to. And we'll go to Delhi and get some other classes and fly back on the 17th.
I'm so unfortunate. I will miss out on you. I will be going on the 31st back to Belgium, Radadish. So yeah,
Well, it's good you had
my
a
misfortune.
in Vrindavan. I'm pleased with you. I'm happy, Dorothy, that you didn't go to so many different places. You be simple and you just focus on hearing and getting sadhu sangha. And it's not necessary to go to all these different places. Yet Mayapur is really far out, and you can see the Ganga, and you can see Radha Madhav, and the ISKCON project is amazing, and the new temple in Prabhupada Samadhi. Jagannath Puri is really amazing. But the main thing is we hear. We should hear Krishna.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. I can see it in your smile.
Yeah. It's very nourishing. Jai, thank you so much, Prabhu.
I hope you keep that smile in your heart.
Thank you.
Rajaraj Gopal Prabhu asks a question. Why does the Prema-bhakti-candrika book on practicing Raganuga Bhakti speak about mundane topics like wealth and piety? Well, Anvaya-vṛtti Bhyam Yat Shat Sarvata Sarvata, in the second canto of the Bhagavatam, we find a description of the entire Bhagavatam. This is one of the Mula shlokas, and it says that the Bhagavatam speaks directly and indirectly. So the Bhagavatam also speaks about simple activities, but not that simple activities are the most important thing to avoid, but bhakti is the most important thing. And Prema-bhakti-candrika, to help us to cut the weeds, he says, Karmi Gyani Micha Bhakta. Don't worry about Nahoibe Toya Anurakta. Don't worry about the false devotees and this one's and that one. Just practice Sudha Bhakti. Huh? So Papa Punya Maya Deya Shakilya Nitya Ehi. He's telling us this thing. This is a negative injunction. And he goes on, Rajaraj Gopal, what is the difference between attachment to wealth and having a capacity to build wealth? Srila Prabhupada obviously had a capacity to build wealth. Whether that was by his karma, I wouldn't say that, or that was by the desire of Krishna. So there's nothing wrong with collecting wealth. Srila Prabhupada, on one occasion, someone came in and said, my guru, speaking about some sadhu in India, he's so advanced that someone came and offered him money, and he said, no, I won't touch it. He won't touch money. And Srila Prabhupada started laughing. He said, my Guru Maharaj would tell you, you should give more, because he was using it in the right way. So Srila Prabhupada was an empowered preacher, and he used that wealth for the right cause. Devotees tend to inflict this idea of poverty on others, but one might feel crippled if they throw away their capacity to build wealth and material prosperity. Crushing one's propensities also seems antithetical to one's practice of bhakti. Of course, therefore, in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, the Brihad Bhagavatam, anyway, Yudhishthira Maharaj comes to Krishna and he requests him, please, I want the most beautiful wife in the world, and I want the greatest wealth. And Krishna looks at him and says, my devotees don't want those kind of things. Why are you asking that for? And Yudhishthira Maharaj explained to him, because some people say that, oh, if I become a devotee of Krishna, I'm going to lose everything. And I want to show them that you can be a devotee of Krishna and have money and things. It's not that money is bad. It's not, even if someone's a sannyasi, doesn't mean that they have to walk everywhere and go in a bullock cart, and they can't ride in a car, or they can't wear nice clothing. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati arrived in Radhakund in a car with a driver, and the driver had a gun, and he was wearing Western clothes, and everyone was completely shocked, to show them what real renunciation means. Now, that's real renunciation, but is a danger when we start saying that real renunciation means I can collect all kinds of money for myself and lead a comfortable life, and that's real renunciation. You have so many things, it's okay, but use it for Krishna. If you're a wealthy person, then build a beautiful home, have some opulence, and show people someone can be a wealthy person and be a devotee of Krishna, but really use it for Krishna. Whereas if you're a poverty-stricken person, you don't have any money, but whatever you have, you say, well, I don't have much, so I'm going to keep it for myself, and you don't give anything for the service of Guru and Krishna, that's a sinful behavior. Is that helpful, Rajaraj Gopal Prabhu?
Thank you, Prabhu.
All right, anybody else with anything? Okay, and let's see online. I told a few people about this today. Let's see, Vaikuntanath Prabhu says, thank you very much. Please come to New Gokul. We would love to come in. Nice to see you, Vaikuntanath Prabhu. We miss it. But actually, we're thinking about coming there this next year. We're talking about it right now. And Tulsi Maharani is also making some comments from Hungary. Thank you. Okay. If there's no other comments or questions, Mangal Prabhu, you have something you want to share?
Yeah, Hare Krishna, bro. I think about this, like, we have the necessity to point on these dualities of pious and sin. And I think about it that sometimes we have this tendency because we need like to, it's coming from our pratishtha, you know, to like we are something extra, something special, you know, that we have to we have this necessity to like think about people in this way and even judge and everything, you know. It's like coming from this principle that, oh, now we are devotees and we are something better, and cultivating this stuff. And actually we are quite often trying to be very pious and clean and clear. And sometimes I think about it that it also could come, you know, from this mentality that we want to be something extraordinary, just not to be humble, and just want to judge everything and not put it into the hand of Krishna, you know, that he is the judge, not we. That we are devotees, we are the best in the world, we are Vaishnavas, etc. So this is my thought on this concept of pointing out to the duality.
Therefore, Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings it that Amito Vaishnava Ebudi Hoili. If this mentality comes that I'm a Vaishnava, he says, then I'll go to hell. Because as soon as we start thinking that Vaishnav means someone who does 4 of these, 16 of these, and this thing and that thing, and I'm doing all those things, therefore I'm a Vaishnava, then the next thing comes that because I'm such an exalted person, I have the right, I have the qualification to judge other people. And I don't like people who wear glasses like Mangal Prabhu is wearing, you know, those kind of people are really bad people or whatever it may be. You judge people by some external thing and you start doing it, making offenses in that way. Whereas we can't see who's who and what's what. We should always keep a humble attitude, which is a difficult thing. Humility is something which comes as a byproduct of the pure chanting of the holy name. But we also cultivate it. We cultivate respect. It's a culture of respect. Culture being both a noun and a verb. It's a noun. It's a place where we practice culture. We cultivate culture of being respectful to others. It's that place of respect. We offer obeisances. We say, please forgive me for my offenses. We try to calm down our mind and not chastise everyone. That's the business of guru. And then again, it doesn't mean that we don't want gurus. It doesn't mean we don't want chastisement. It doesn't mean we can't accept chastisement from someone. But it becomes really annoying when the whole planet, everybody wants to you know, they just get out of my way. I'm the guru. I'm the judge here, and this guy, and we're all quarreling about it. It's horrible. There's a beautiful quote that I came across. Let's see if I can find it here. Here it is. I was going to post this on Facebook. This is a verse we came across from Skanda Purana. Kuda parushavacha shreyaso pyavamanyate vachavache hikupito na prajaniti karichit. even though what you're saying may be true, it may be vacha, what you're saying, your words are true, your vacha is true, but if it's spoken with mundane anger, then people won't be able to accept it. Instead, they're going to see your words as being something insulting, and you're just going to get in a big argument with everybody. Sounds like marriage too, right? Or raising children, it's the same thing, or living in a community. We had to be careful. If people don't have faith in us, they don't have to. Right? Is that helpful, Prabhuji?
Yes, thank you very much, bro. Actually, it was, great story with this saintly thief, and it actually, like makes me wonder how, we can even like make the scale of the devotion to sometimes like even absurd like region, but still it's the devotion, how the devotion could look in different ways. And therefore it even reminds me even more this necessity, do not judge, just like even by the sin of someone, we have to, as I said, the tendency to point on the sins, of the politics, on everyone, but it's not our role actually in our life. So thank you very much, bro.
Call such a person Papa Gananam. Papa means sin, Gananam means someone who's counting. And it says that Papa Gananam Yakaroti the Naradamam, that person is the lowest of all people, who makes a business out of that, going around and chastising everyone. But at the same time, Srila Prabhupada, you could say he was making a business out of that. He was going around chastising everyone, but he's qualified for that. And what was his qualification? People had faith in him. People could accept it. And on at least one occasion, there's a story at one Pando program in Delhi, as I recall. Afterwards, some man came to argue with Srila Prabhupada, and he was very angry. He said, how are you people really saints? You're just bogus. You're just collecting money. If you were real saints, then you would send someone to Pakistan, and you would be able to preach there. And Prabhupada was just very humble. The devotees were astonished. Prabhupada was so humble. He didn't argue with the man. And afterwards, the devotee said something, and Prabhupada said, oh, he was someone, probably I offended him in my last life. That was Prabhupada's mood. So the man did not have faith in Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada didn't try to chastise him or anything. Of course, sometimes Prabhupada chastised people who didn't have faith in him, but he did that for the benefit of other people who did have faith in a public situation. Okay? We got to hear something from Kalindi. Kalindi, please tell us if your husband is being a good guy or if he's causing trouble or not. Is it thumbs up or thumbs down?
I think that you should ask him whether I'm doing trouble. But
I see Kalindi.
No, I think she's not doing troubles so much anymore.
So Kalindi asked this question, I'll go ahead and read it. Do I understand correctly that focusing on being pious and sinless equals focusing on ayācita-vṛtti? Yes. That's the point we're making in the beginning.
Because I'm coming from the area, here in Middle Europe. When I came to Krishna consciousness, it was so much stress on ayācita-vṛtti, actually. And we really didn't get what bhakti is. And I'm just, I feel like newcomer last months, because I'm just trying to get it right. And sometimes it was for me like hard to believe that what we have been practicing wasn't really it, wasn't really what we should focus on. So I'm very happy that I can hear and associate in the Sangha to get this opportunity and sambandha, because the the worst thing was that actually we have been practicing this, and actually we have been focused and like honest, and we get some results, but we got some results of shunyavad, and it was real. And we have been thinking that we are doing spiritual progress. I also had some realizations, but it wasn't actually bhakti, maybe. So now I see how it is so important to have a proper understanding and proper sangha. So thank you very much.
Very important. We want to associate with Rupa Goswami and our acharyas by always repeating what they say about Sudha Bhakti. There's one person, one big ISKCON guru who left some years ago. And one of the things that really broke his heart is before he left, he used to preach real heavy about the four regulator principles and things. And there was one Grihastha couple who weren't able to follow all four principles. And they felt so bad about it, they committed suicide. That were offenders to our guru and everything. So we're not the International Society for Four Regulated Principles. That's not our purpose. We practice bhakti, and all those other things come automatically. That's a very, very important principle to understand. Okay, I want to go to Tirthakar Prabhu, because Tirthakar Prabhu is such an amazing personality, and we don't often get his association because he's always busy. And he has his hand up, we should hear. Hare Krishna Prabhu. You look so,
Hare
your
Krishna Prabhu.
daughter looks so much like you. You know that? She
Who?
has this daughter.
Yeah, they say that. Yeah, it's probably mine. Yeah. I have many things, but I don't want to take so much time of all devotees. But a few things regarding the purity of bhakti. I realized that similar thing what Kalingi was saying now, that actually in many of our temples and lectures, many times we preach Mishra Bhakti as a pure Bhakti. And we consider those impurities that they are actually not impurities. And with one thing, maybe you can correct me that I am maybe arrogant, but for example, there is a book, Our Original Position, which was written and produced by GBC in years back. And I was looking, it was I think produced 96. So around that time, a majority of all these devotees were practicing around 25 years, which is around my time now. And I am, let's say, on the level of their practice. I cannot say realizations, this cannot be compared, but I don't agree with those things. But my disagreement would appear as a disloyalty to Srila Prabhupada. And I'm just wondering, you mentioned that we have to maintain humble position, and even if we are not humble from chanting, we have to at least try to cultivate that mentality, right? But is that disagreement from my side sign of the arrogance?
It's a sign of intelligence. My Guru Maharaj, he used to tell me that you should speak boldly and don't compromise. But when we're speaking with certain persons, certain individuals, he'd also say you bow your head, you be very humble. But when you give class or something, then you speak the Siddhanta. Of course, it also depends on different places. If you run into certain temples and you start speaking about this thing, about the jiva, then they're not going to ask you to speak again. And so my Guru Maharaj himself, he didn't always stress that topic. He would avoid that topic generally in public. It's an art to working with the society. And why do we want to work with the society? Not just for our own personal bhakti, but we want to do that for Srila Prabhupada's mission. Because there has to be some kind of cooperation. And cooperation means being with a lot of people maybe we don't appreciate. Being with a lot of people who may not have the same understanding, let's say, of Siddhanta that we do. And therefore, we can go on. I'm feeling that was a concern for me very strongly for many years as a so-called Christian. But I'm feeling a lot more peaceful about it over the last few years, because I've been focused more on just giving classes and things to devotees who want to hear from us. Whereas if you go to temples and maybe they don't really want to hear from you, but you're just the visiting preacher or something, then troubles can come. But if we're speaking to like-minded devotees who have some faith in us, then we can speak some higher things. Some of these things are more subtle, a little more difficult. Maybe just to keep it simple, Prabhupada said sometimes we all fall from the spiritual world. One time he said, even if you return there, you may fall again. Prabhupada said those things in letters and some conversations, lectures. But in his books, he says the conclusion is no one falls. Now, how to reconcile those two things is a subtle topic. And some people maybe can't digest that, especially if they don't have faith in our motivation. So you're speaking about karma mishra bhakti, but there's also what I would call cash mishra bhakti, which is bhakti, which is mixed with a desire for paisa mishra bhakti. That's another thing that goes around a lot in our society. In the name of bhakti, we have to collect so much money and have so much opulence, and it can be a dangerous thing. We should be careful.
Yeah, I saw many times also there are even lectures which are contaminated by Mayavada philosophy, and it's presented as a bhakti. It's very common is jnana. Jnana is many times mixed within our process, and it is stressed as this is as a pure bhakti, although Rupa Goswami says rather opposite in Nectar of Devotion. But sometimes even Mayavada and it's presented as a pure bhakti.
Yeah, and we have people who are doing outright sinful, terrible things, but sometimes push on the mission, and maybe they're helpful, maybe practically they're required. And Srila Prabhupada sometimes accepted them out of mercy to engage them, and then we become confused. Well, should we also accept them? Yes and no. We should, everybody has a right to practice bhakti. Everybody we can offer some service to this mission, but I have a right, I have an obligation as an individual to decide who I'm going to hear from, who I'm going to associate with. And if I don't have faith in a particular person, then I can be respectful. But even if it's a temple or something, I may keep a distance because I see the philosophy is just not right. The behavior is not right.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Who likes your comment. And Krishna Kun's jumping up and down. She also liked your comments. I think she has something. Speak loudly. Come off the side here. They don't have to, they won't see you, but they'll hear you. They won't see you, I promise, unless you come over here. You stop there.
Okay.
Now they're
Yes.
seeing you.
Please, we want to see you also.
They also want to see you. So you can stick your head around the there she is.
I just asked my husband actually to repeat something that our Gurudev told him at one place. You spoke that at that place?
Told me what?
You spoke that?
Oh, yeah, right.
Because it's a good balance.
Yeah. I as a very young, new enthusiastic follower of my Guru Maharaj, once I'd gone to the Los Angeles temple, I can mention that, where I grew up spiritually. And they asked me to give class, and devotees liked it. And somehow the next day, I was leaving the next evening or something, and the devotee who was giving class the next day asked me to give class instead of him. So I gave again. And this time the verse spoke something about sadhu or something, and I spoke about the importance of associating with an uttam adhikari and an elevated devotee. And it became controversial, and the leaders there became upset with me and things. And later I mentioned to my Guru Maharaj there was some controversy, and he said, don't compromise, speak boldly. Okay. And then a little later, I spoke about it again, but this time I told him what I spoke about, which I didn't the first time. I said, I was speaking about how we should associate with elevated Vaishnavas. And he said, oh, you spoke that there? He said, you should not have done that. So there's an art to pushing on Srila Prabhupada's mission that we have to be careful. Dorothea, you've collected a lot of valuable gems, I can imagine, here in Vrindavan. Now, if you go back and you just start throwing them everywhere and advertising them, you may have trouble. You may have some problems. Bonnie comments, people think cash will help them in their life, but it may be a curse. If I say this, people think I must require a padded room. Yeah, because cash is, I heard Srila Bhaktisiddhanta made a comment. I've never found this, but someone said this, and it makes sense. So there's two absolute truths. Although the Bhagavatam says it ayācita-vṛtti, actually said there's two absolute truths. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and cash on hand. In this material world, cash on hand is an absolute principle, but it's a sad thing. If you look at people, we're, all of us in this Sangha here, I think none of us are really particularly wealthy persons financially, in financial sense. Definitely, Bonnie, you're not, I know. But if all of a sudden Bill Gates gives all of his money to you or something, you may think, oh my God, this is the best thing in the world. But all of a sudden now your life is no longer peaceful. And you have to worry about keeping your money and investing your money, and everybody's coming and wanting to cheat you and borrow money and this and that. And it becomes a big headache, a big problem. Whereas we can just be simple and be a poor person and everything is okay. It's all right. I like your point. Leela Purushottam comments, it really takes maturity to navigate properly in these things. That's why we want to associate with you, Leela Purushottam Prabhu and Tirthakar Prabhu. Okay, anybody else with any comments or questions or anything? I'm going to go ahead and stop. I need to run to the little boys' room. Please excuse me. So I think next week, I'm not sure what's happening next week. I'll let everybody know. Wednesday is supposed to be our day. We'll see. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki.
Jai. Hare
Vancha
Krishna.
Kripa